Hello everyone, this is Charlotte, and this is a podcast based on chatting in cars, where I crap on about irrelevant topics so you can get bored to shit and possibly fall asleep. It is 7:19 in the morning, I'm driving to work, and I've got about a 45-minute drive. So I'm going to be crapping on about today's topic, which is divorce. Lovely. Anyone who's gone through a divorce knows that it's a bit shit, possibly more than a bit shit, depending on if you've got kids or not. The thing is to try and work your way through it and not kill anyone on the way. Much like driving, I'm currently backing out of my driveway, trying not to whack into someone's four-wheel drive. I hate four-wheel drives. Why do you need them in suburbia? I don't know. Random. Anyway, divorce, yes. Okay. Now, I went through divorce at 33. I had been with this guy since I was 17, dating. So, yeah, it was an interesting divorce because he was all I had never known, basically. And then to have to leave him wasn't a great idea. It wasn't good because I based my whole identity and everything I was on him and what we were. Because I was 17 at the time, and you're like, ooh, boyfriend, my first boyfriend, I love him, I can't do anything without him. It's insane. My very first boyfriend I had at 16, but he was a nightmare because he cheated on me. I mean, what 16-year-old cheats on you? Then I met this guy who is now my current ex-husband. He got me quite young. I had a whole bunch of mental issues going on at the time. I had an eating disorder, anorexia, I had low self-esteem, I was living in an abusive household. I was going through, exams and things, which are not always great, highly stressful. And he came out of the distance like some shining knight on a horse and supposedly made everything all right, which is a bit of a joke because in the end, he was a bit of a prick. Now, I didn't realise this at the start, but he was actually an overt narc. You know what an overt narc is, right? Someone who thinks they're hot shit, someone who drags someone else around or down to make themselves feel better. And these kinds of, if you want to Google it, I mean, I've been looking into it for years now. Because I was trying to understand why the marriage broke down or why the relationship failed or why I was feeling like shit all the time with this guy. And I'm going, is it something I'm doing? And obviously you internalize it because you're sitting there thinking, oh, it's my fault it failed. Of course it was my fault. So if I look within me and what I've been doing, what I've been enabling, of course I'm the reason why it failed. Which might sound a bit narcissistic in itself, really. It's like self-blaming. It's like, what the hell? But honestly, as far as I've got, when I boiled down to it, we were two different people that wanted two different things. And that's a bit cliche, but at the same time, it's the most reasonable, least emotionally destructive view of it. I was like, obviously, I wanted the home and the safe place because of possibly my background and where I'd come from. He had come from a similar one, except his parents had divorced, so divorce was very normal for him. So he had no problem, fucking things up as a relationship, so that was his job. For me, my parents were still together. It was a crazy berserker relationship, but at the same time they'd stayed together, so for me divorce was not a thing. So yeah, anyway, so starting at 17, we were together, we dated in high school. Out of high school we moved in together. I lost my virginity to him at 19. We were engaged at the time. We had a very long engagement from about 18 to 27, so it was about 10 years we were together before we even started thinking about getting married. And even then, it was me that was sort of pushing him to the altar. 2008 we had broken up, which was a crazy fucking year, in which I had a miscarriage. I broke up with him. I think I'd stuffed up at school as well, uni-wise. I had my first sexual encounter while I was single, of course, with my now ex-boyfriend, which I would then find again 15 years later. Oh my God, is that a story in itself? And so it was a crazy year in itself. We broke up one time and then got back together again because, of course, by then I had developed really low self-esteem. I had an anxious attachment and I couldn't live without him, apparently. So we got back together after him being convinced that, yeah, maybe this is a decent relationship. But at the time, it's like, I think we're both just in denial. It's like, we had known each other since we were 17, so yeah, it was probably just denial. It's like, we weren't good for each other. Although he had his ego stroked and, every whim looked after, because I was the token girl in the house. At the time, we were living with one of his friends. We were always living with one of his friends. He always had some guy friend around. So, which led me to believe later in the relationship, it's like, are you gay or something? Not that would imply, you need a friend around constantly to be gay, but it was either you had feelings for this person, because he would always stick up for this person over me. I mean, that's part of trauma bonding as well. You would never get chosen as the person, even though you're meant to be the closest person to this person, you would always be seconded. And of course that would make you chase them and they'd become anxiously attached and things like that. So he had me in the house and he always had this other person on the side, or several other persons. Later I would find out he would have several other persons because he was not monogamous either. So that was a fun eye-opener. And while I was married, I was very naive. I was like, yay, we're finally married. It's been 10 years, finally married. Great, we can start building our life together. We can finally start getting a home. I'll get a job. You'll get a job. We can build together. We're not going to have kids because neither of us want kids, but that's fine. After I miscarried twice, I was traumatized enough from that. I'm like, look, I don't want kids. I'm good. He didn't want them anyway because it would detract from him. So yeah, it's like, no, I'm good. It's a lot of fuss and mess, and it's like, I just don't want that. I already work as a teacher. I don't need this extra fuss at home. So that was our life. That was what we were working towards, what I thought we were working towards. But perpetually, he lost his job, or whatever he wanted to do failed. So at the start, he was in the Navy. I thought, great, that's a really good job. We can build a life together. I know the salary they had because we used to live with Navy guys. Again, his friends constantly around. Don't even get me started on in the Navy, don't ask, don't tell stuff. It's alright, I can say that because I'm bi, but you guys don't say it because you'll get in trouble. But it was constant. We were never alone, and when we were alone, it was him having a slagging match at me. It's like nothing I ever did was right, and I'm sitting there going, well, this can't be right. Surely by now I would have got something right. And it'd be stupid stuff like I cooked his eggs wrong, or the house wasn't cleaned properly the way he wanted it, or it was stupid stuff. Like he himself had horrible habits, like leaving piles of toenail clippings around on tables and things like that. And I said, "You're going to put them in the bin?" And he's like, "Nah, I'm just going to leave it there." And you're like, "You're fucking disgusting." Okay. And of course I would put them in the bin because I'm not leaving that kind of stuff around the house. And so I became this sort of, instead of a lifelong partner, I was more like a servant or a scapegoat. If he didn't want to do something, I'd bail him out of it for his friends or work or something. And it was not a relationship. It was very much a one-sided relationship, where at times I was financially carrying him because he wanted to start, personal training boot camps or something like that. And there's no fucking money in that. And me being the teacher with the decent job would be carrying us, and I'd be funding things like his trip to Bali or some crap like that. It's like, or if he needed more equipment for his business, like, yeah, we'll go buy some more equipment. What the thing that broke the relationship mostly, because I was willing to tolerate a lot of shit, I'm what they call a ride or die, but don't ever do it, okay? Because you tolerate too much shit in the end, and you don't have to. You really don't. At the point, it just became abuse. Because I was like, oh, that's just the way he is, that's okay. Oh, he loves me still. Or if I don't show him what he wants, he's just going to ignore me, and then I won't be a priority in his life, and blah, 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 blah. There's a whole bunch of shit. Do not be a ride or die. They romanticize it. It's abuse. There is always one asshole, or several assholes, that will exploit that. And at the time you're thinking, oh, it's the best thing I can do, because he'll support me back, or she'll support me back. They don't. They exploit it. Don't do that. It needs to be even. If you're putting in something, they should be putting in something. If they can't put in the same kind of thing, they need to supplement it with something else. For example, if you're the main earner, they need to provide some kind of emotional support. I mean, obviously you're going to be providing emotional support on both sides, hopefully, God willing, right? That's what makes a good marriage. At the same time, if you know you're the bigger, not that money should really be a thing in the relationship. I mean, you're not marrying someone for money, are you? You're not dating someone for money. If you are, it's a bit fucking shallow, I have to say. That's not why you should be with someone. Ultimately, you should be with someone because you love them. Love them. Not like them, not think they're pretty hot, or they have money, or they have friends, or they have a social position. You love them. It's a feeling. It's a feeling you can't explain, you can't control. If you love someone, you know it. You know it deep down. Yes, it is cliche the way that I said that. But that is the only sole reason why you should be with someone. If you don't love someone, you leave first. You don't cheat on them. You take the hit, you grieve, you mourn, and then you go and find someone else if you want to. If you feel you're ready. My asshole ex-husband... How many women out there are going, oh my God, here we go. My asshole ex-husband decided a month after 6 years, we were married, so we'd been together 16 years, he decided to tell me for a month-long discussion that he didn't believe in monogamy, that he didn't believe in marriage. He then gave me an ultimatum. Wrong answer, right? I'm sitting there thinking, first of all, don't give me an ultimatum. That's probably the stupidest thing you could do because I'm automatically going to turn against you now. That's just me. I don't know if anyone else is like that. I'm like, that is the dumbest shit you can do. It's like automatically the answer is no, right? He gave me the ultimatum. If we didn't have an open marriage, he was gonna leave me. At this point, I'm like, fuck you. Because I had given 16 years of my life to this asshole. That's half my life at the time. I was 33 when I finally divorced him. Half my life to this asshole. And I couldn't believe it. And I was like, I wasn't just like a sit on my ass kind of wife. I was the one that was cooking, cleaning, doing his taxes, doing the food shopping, doing all the errands. I was working full time. I was propping up his business. I was trying to help him build his. It's like I was not, I've got a ring on my finger and I don't have to do anything wife. I was living his life for him at times. I'm going, you're not handling any of this. I was paying the bills, figuratively and literally. It's like he did not want to pay bills. I had, in essence, a man-child. And I had him from 17 to 33. And I'm like, I cannot believe you are pulling this shit on me now. I was angry. And I'm still angry. I'm still angry. They keep saying, don't be angry, forgive and forget and all that bullshit. I'm like, no, that was half my life gone because of you being an insecure, ego-driven prick. And I hated him for it. And I still, in part, still hate him for it. Because I'm like, all these plans and things we've made, all these hopes, all this breadcrumbing of affection you gave me, all of this. You led me on a merry bloody dance, and then you dropped me because you wanted to get your dick wet with someone else. And that, I'm still angry about that. And I don't care if anyone's like, you shouldn't be this angry. I'm like, no. I'm a Taurus, I'm allowed to be. I am angry. Because when I get into a relationship, it is live or die. It is, I'm all in. I don't hold back. And I want to hold back. I want to be all in. I want to give everything. And that leaves you open to exploitation. It does. Because they think, great, I've got a willing victim here now. I've got someone I can manipulate into giving me whatever they have and whatever they want to give. And I don't have to do anything. Because they want to give. And I did that for 17 years, 16 years. And the worst thing is, I remember now, because I was losing my shit when I was in the separation year. I was absolutely, I lost my mind in that year because I was so ingrained in us and what we were going to do and what our future was, and I was grieving. And when I grieve, I fucking grieve. I don't do it in public, but behind the scenes, I do it and I die. I was losing my shit. I mean, I wasn't not being productive at the same time because what had resulted from the divorce was I left the house with the shirt on my back. So essentially I had to make my own shit. Whatever I had. I was in debt because of him, because he never wanted to work. And so I was footing the bill. So I had 10 grand in credit card debt. I was homeless. I was couch surfing because I couldn't go back to him. Not after all this. I don't even know how I would have lived with him at this time. just sitting there waiting for him to bring someone home. Because it's okay, because he's decided he's going to do this. And to be honest, from the evidence which I found in the marriage, I'm pretty sure he had people on the side anyway. So he was slapping me in the face doing this. I made an absolute demand that I was not going to sit with him while he did this to me. So I was out of the house with a shirt on my back. I had no money. I was in debt. I still had my teaching job, but I was couch surfing on my brother's couch. And he has a very passive-aggressive wife, and she did not want me there, regardless of the situation. She is, to be honest, a bit of a bitch, but that's a whole different podcast in itself, and I will get to that one eventually, because right now he's going through some crisis shit with his marriage, and I'm like, oh my God, okay. That's a whole nother discussion. Oh my God, just don't get me started. But couch surfing on my brother's couch. Sorry, I was rounding a corner there. So that happened until, let's see, I left him in January, separated in January, did not turn back. Although I was willing to still stay in contact with him at the time, but he ditched me. And I'm like, okay, that was unusual. I was like, do you want to come over and try and, have a coffee or something like that? Because I was still willing to fix the relationship by that stage. I'm like, I don't understand why you're doing this to us now, but I want to keep the peace. And he was like, can we still be friends afterwards? So I'm like, okay, no, not really. Because I don't want to be around when you pull the next chick, or guy. I still think he's gay. I don't know. I think he was a closet gay guy, and this was the way he dealt with it. He always had male friends around. I'm like, are these friends or are these boyfriends? I mean, not that I mind. I just wish you'd been honest. I mean, and monogamous, quite frankly, because I assumed we were at the time, He never said anything in the lead up 16 years. And that's what blew my mind. It's like, I don't get it. There was a complete miscompute there. I'm going, this is the first I've heard about it in 16 years. And you turn around and tell me, not only do you not believe in marriage, you are not monogamous. And then you give me an ultimatum. I'm like, what the fuck? Okay, what is this about? What did I do? And you do. You sit there and you think, I'm blaming myself, but this is his decision. He chose this. This is the way he wanted to behave. It's like, I would never in my life give anyone A, an ultimatum, or B, an ultimatum based on relationships, love, and anything like that. You just don't. It's not if it's the way I was raised, but it just doesn't seem right. If you could give someone an ultimatum based on, you're a drug abuser. And so, you kind of need to get off the drugs or we're going to both go down. And that is something to give an ultimatum about. But open marriages, open relationships, that shit gets sorted before you even start, to stop people getting their feelings hurt and their brain fucked up, You don't just decide after, 16 years? Oh, I'm going to do this now. And I swear to God, all it was the next step in his narcissism. Because he had barreled into me for 16 years, degrading me, controlling me. I wasn't allowed to wear makeup. I wasn't allowed to grow my hair long. I had to keep it short. He liked that. I wasn't allowed to wear nice dresses because it drew attention. He wanted me in some kind of active wear that was usually dumpy active wear. And then he'd tell me I looked dumpy in this active wear. I'm going, what the fuck, dude? I was forced into going to the gym with him, and we had to train his way. And to be honest, he was a personal trainer. He was an asshole personal trainer. It's like everything had to be micromanaged and controlled to the way he liked it, or he'd lose his shit. And he was a berserker too when he got going. And I remember telling him, we had an argument one time, and he slammed his hand down on something. I said, please don't do that. You're reminding my dad when you do that. And I don't like it. And he goes, and I just remember his response was screaming, such disrespect. I'm going, excuse me? You're disrespecting me by doing this. And it's that was towards the end of the relationship. It's things like that. You sit there and think, no, really, it's starting to add up now. It's like, you are the asshole here. It's like, I was willing to do the nice stuff. I wanted to do the nice stuff because I'm an all-in, give everything kind of person. And I opened myself up to creating these scenes and scenarios and experiences where I get exploited for being nice. In the end, he wanted to be a kept man. And he wanted to have, obviously sex with other people while he was being kept by me. And by kept, I mean paid for. I don't mean I control him or I make him do anything. He had one in the house, and Christ knows how many in the street. And this was the game he wanted to play. He thought it was a genius idea. He would lie to me. He'd come home. The worst thing is, every morning, I'd kiss him goodbye. I'd make him his coffee, get his shit together for work. He'd be in the shower while I was doing it. Everything was ready for him to when he went to his boot camps in the morning, which, terrible idea, stupid idea. And he never worked on his business, but fuck him. And he would tell me, he'd kiss me, and then he'd tell me, I love you. And then he would go do his boot camps and fuck knows what else. Fuck knows who else, to be honest. Because he would come back and he'd have marks on his body and he'd smell like sex and things like this. And you sit there and go, why did I not pick this up when I was married to him? Why did I not remember this? Or why didn't this not flag? Yeah. And, you have like what looked like hickey marks. And he goes, and I said, how did you get that? What is that? And he's like, oh, it's from the machine at the gym. Going, it looks like a hickey mark, dude. And one time I called him on it in front of some of his friends that he was trying to impress. And these were people with money. And he was a social climber, of course, as you usually are when you're an asshole. And I told him, that looks like a hickey mark. And I said to his friends, doesn't it look like a hickey mark? And he lost his shit. He threw his bag around on the floor. I was convinced these two couples, he was having an affair with one of them. So I got my balls up and I confronted one of them. I said, I pulled her aside, out of the way, away from her husband and stuff like that. And I said, are you having an affair with my husband? I'm convinced he's doing something behind my back. He keeps coming back and there's all this evidence. I listened to the evidence and all this shit. And she's like, no. And she denied it. I'm going, well, okay, if it's not you, then it might be someone else. So I'm sitting there thinking, who else do I know? And there was always this girl that he kept, like, hidden. Like, I wasn't supposed to know about. Not that it guaranteed that he was having an affair with her. But at one point, he said she was in trouble and they were looking for an apartment for her. And I'm like, well, who is it? Because I'm like innocent at the time. I'm going, oh, maybe I can help. I don't know. I might know some people she can live with or something like that. But he wouldn't tell me her name, and because he didn't want to identify who she was. I'm going, all right, this just sounds sus to me now. But his friend knew about it as well. I'm going, what is going on? Why am I kept out of the loop so much with this kind of shit? And it was a mission. It was a mission and lying, and it was the control sense. Complete narc. He was a complete narc. It's the only way he could keep hold of me was not telling me the truth or keeping information out of the loop. And he used to give me the shits. And for 16 years, I was like, this is fine. It's not fine, but I'll put up with it. So in the end, the ultimatum is what broke the camel's back. It was the straw that broke the camel's back. And I couldn't put up with that shit. So I left with clothes on my back. I couch surfed at my brother's. Then I was lucky. I say lucky. One of my grandparents died. So they left a house that needed renovating. So my parents were like, can you stay at this house and renovate it? And eventually you can pay rent on it. And I'm like, I need somewhere to be. My sister-in-law doesn't want me at the house. So yeah, I'll move into that house. It was a complete shithole. The garden was overgrown. The house was falling apart. I'm like, okay, it'll give me something to do. So I was working full time. And I was walking full time, and I was also renovating this house. So I was also trying to get my head together through this horrible experience. But the whole time, I'm sitting there thinking, this has got to be better than staying with someone who is that abusive. So I had no money, I was in debt, I got myself out of debt. Long story, that's another podcast in itself. I got myself back on track. I got out of the country. I managed to go on a trip, which was really nice because I managed to go back to the UK for a month. Of course, that put me into a little bit more debt, but you know what? At the time, it was worth it because I got away from the confrontation of the situation. I just got out of the country. I didn't want to know at that point. I'm just like, I need to escape. But even now, this is like 4 years ago or so now. I lost track of time after a while, how long it had been since I separated from him. I finalised the divorce. And then it was like, right, fuck you. I never want to talk to you again. I never want to do this again. It took me ages to crawl out of the hole that you fucking created. I don't want to see you ever again. I think I looked at his Facebook profile, or tried to find his Facebook profile maybe a year ago or so, and I'm looking, I just want to see if he's done anything with his life. And to be honest, it wasn't there, and I'm like, you know what, this is probably the universe's sign saying, fuck this guy, don't bother about him ever again. But even now, I have discussions with my kids in my class, because kids are nosy, and I'm like, I don't mind encouraging this nosiness. Because like one of them will tell each other off, it's like, oh, did you just ask the teacher's age and stuff like that? I'm going, oh, that's rude. It's like, no, it's not rude. I don't care. If you've got questions, ask me. I don't mind. One of the kids said, are you married? Have you got kids? And I'm like, well, I haven't got kids because I decided not to. I mean, I didn't tell them that I miscarried twice, but I decided not to. I've got you guys at school. This is what we do. I would rather have you guys at school than I would at home. And then they said, are you married? And I said, oh, no, I was married once, but I'm divorced now. It's like, oh, no. And their first response is, oh, that's so sad. And I'm like, is it? Is it really that sad? Knowing the person I was married to, I mean, it would be sad if I loved him and he had treated me well and we had built something together, if we had great kids out of it or something. I mean, not to say that if you had terrible kids, it would be a reason not to get divorced or something like that, but it's like it wasn't a great situation. And whilst I don't believe in divorce, and I still don't, I think it should only be a last resort. I see people get together, get married, and then divorce like a year later because there's like, It's like, what do you mean, I mean, I didn't go into that situation saying, oh, it's just something I want to do because fuck it's the weekend. I went in there with the direct purpose of, we are married, we are going to stay together till we die. I mean, that might be a bit obsessive. I mean, it's a red flag for some people. I'm just like, but that's the kind of person I am. If I'm in, I'm all in. Let's do this. Okay, let's go. It's like, he fucking proposed to me, at 18? I'm like, okay, it's been 10 years. Let's go. I thought this was the person I was supposed to spend the rest of my life with. It's like, or maybe I'm just ultra committed. I don't know. But I had no idea that 16 years later he would turn around and say, I'm not monogamous and I don't believe in marriage and all this shit. And I was like, but you proposed to me. Oh. And I felt shit after that because your entire universe collapses. Reality, as you know, just dissolves. And you're like, I don't understand why you did this. Why did you feed me these lies for this long? And to be honest, it's part of his narc game, I think. Because then he's got, a source on hand. Someone who'll constantly prop him up for years. And then when he gets bored, or if someone new comes along who's got more, or has something more appealing, he can just bail. I mean, I don't know who. I have a very strong reason he left me for someone. I have a strong belief that he did because of the evidence, let alone that. But the fact that he didn't want to stay in contact afterwards. And it's like, there's someone else, isn't there? It's like, this is insane. And all I know is that I'm south of the river and he moved north of the river. I'm going, that is a big jump to just, leave a marriage. Like, you left for someone. Someone was already living in the north of the river where we are. So there had to be something. There was more to this than he was letting on. It's like he had found someone. I had a strong feeling he'd found someone in his boot camps who lived in a better area, probably lived a better lifestyle, or some shit like that. And he just didn't want to carry on or even try and build, because he was meant to build with me. We were meant to build some kind of future together, but he didn't want to. He didn't want to because he had just enough of what he wanted now, and when someone better came along, he was going to go with them. I think that was his plan the whole time. I know we started young, 17, but honestly, I think he got bored and he just hung on because he was waiting for something better. That's insane. It's like, why would you do that? Meanwhile, I'm being fucking mugged off, sitting there thinking, great, I've got a husband. I'm going to spend the rest of my life with him because I love him so much. Brilliant. I've got this buddy for life. And I don't mind. I don't mind that kind of relationship. Some people call it clingy. I wasn't clingy physically because it's like I just didn't have the time to be clingy physically. What he wanted was verbal confirmation constantly that he was a fantastic guy. I remember that. Compliments all the time. I remember that. Because he was a PT and he had this massive muscly body, and it's like, oh, look at how much effort I put in. Oh, aren't you fabulous? And he was like, yeah, it was ego stroking the whole fucking time. And he just kept fed up with it in the end. You're like, yes, you're all very pretty girls. We get it. Fuck off. It's like, when are you actually going to get a real job? Because we are drowning here. And I was carrying us. But in a sense, it's like, it's been better since I divorced. It was hell going through divorce because of the circumstances. I was in debt. I was homeless. I was relying on people. I don't like relying on anyone. I hate relying on anyone. It's just, it shows to me that I have somewhere in my life where I'm not capable, and I hate that. I am like, I have to be capable. I have to be independent. It's weird self-control stuff. I can be very unforgiving if I find something where I'm not doing something properly. Yeah, that's some trauma response right there. But the failed marriage was not a failure in itself. What it did was it liberated me, because he had customized me to be something I wasn't. If I had stayed on course and not met him, maybe it would have turned out differently. Maybe I would be what I am now, because the plans that I am now were still in play. But he took things from me constantly. And if he didn't take things from me, it was a case of customizing me to be what he wanted me to be. I didn't get to be me. I had to be the dumpy little housewife who did exactly what he wanted, who constantly bolstered his ego, who paid the bills and did all the errands and things like that. I didn't have my own life. I was just something that he could suck the life out of. And I didn't realize that until I got out, because he did trauma bonding, because he did anxious attachment bullshit. He treated you like shit. So you think, okay, so if I chase him, I can get some kind of affection that I crave. It's like, I thought he loved me once. Maybe if I do this, he'll do this and he'll love me. And he'll love me back. And then he won't chase these other girls, or he won't ignore me for his friends. And one of the biggest fucking things I hated when I was with him was when he said, I'll pencil you in. I fucking hated him for that. I really did, because it meant I was not important at all to him. It's like, pencil. How permanent, right? I've been here 16 years, but yeah, I'm an option, right? Fuck you. Another one of the worst things he ever did to me was when I miscarried the second time, knowing that we both didn't want kids, his response was not, are you okay? Can I help you in any way? How do you feel? What is this? There was no consideration of that. It was, how can you get attached to something you didn't want in the first place? That was his response. He brushed it off. This was a traumatizing experience. He did not give a fuck whether I was okay. I told him about the first one as well. When I had the second one, I didn't tell him about the first one the first up. I told him about the first one the second time I miscarried, because I wanted to know that he gave a shit about me. And he didn't. How can you get attached to something you didn't want in the first place? So coolly, so coldly. He just did not care. And it's things like that I should have picked up, that it was just an abusive relationship. It was a control thing. It was trauma bonding. Another thing is, I had a puppy. Oh my God, this is so cliche, right? I had a puppy. I'm feeling very John Wick right now. And I came in from work, and it was still a puppy. I only had it for about 6 months. And I came in from work, and he had given it away to one of his friends' family members. It wasn't his dog. And I sat there and think, wait a minute, you gave away my puppy. That's insane. It's like, why would you do that? It wasn't yours. Why did you give it away? And it was another control mechanism. He was just being a nasty prick. And he could, because it meant he could dominate me. And I would do what he wanted me to do. He was just an arsehole. He was an ego-driven arsehole. He thought he was that great that he could just give away something that was mine, because he thought it was the right thing to do. He was a controlling piece of shit. So when kids talk to me and say, oh, you got divorced, that's so sad, I'm like, no. What I got was my freedom. And what I needed at the time was a nasty shock, like an ultimatum, to make me reevaluate the whole fucking situation. I'm like, fuck you, guy. You're an asshole. You deserve to be on your own. Whether he hooked up with someone at the end, I don't know. I don't care. Quite frankly, he's poisoning someone else's life as far as I'm concerned. As long as he stays the fuck away from me, I'll be happy about it. I would like to know if he ended up in the gutter, which is where I predict he went, because he had some kind of weird Peter Pan syndrome where he didn't want to work. And I'm wondering if he's actually stepped up to his, being a man. I mean, he's 37 now. We're both the same age. If at 37 he is still on his mum's couch, I would not be surprised. But the thing is, people stigmatize divorce so much. I mean, it's really common now. But I think it's really common now because women, or even men, are less willing to put up with dumb shit. So we got our own baggage. Stop bringing dumb shit to my life. Like ego-driven ultimatums about, I need to fuck other people outside the marriage. Just stop. I mean, some people are into that non-monogamous stuff. I'm not, because I know from a fact it comes with a lot of extra baggage and trauma. Someone's feelings always gets fucked with. And it's a head fuck, to be honest. It's like, at the moment, it's like with my ex-boyfriend's social crew, they're all like sleeping around. I'm going, you guys are doing so much damage. It's like the chefs in the kitchen thing. There's too many cooks in the kitchen right now. You are all giving each other trauma. And you think it's great because you're getting sex for free. I'm like, you have no idea about the ripple effect you are creating. It's all cool. We're all, 20s. We're all sleeping around. It's fine. It's all free love and shit like that. It's like, yeah, right. Yeah, no. It seems like a good idea right now, but when you get to my age, you look back and go, holy shit, I'm fucked in the head. I never slept around. I think I did once with my ex-boyfriend. Now, I was in a threesome with my ex-boyfriend. That was when I was in my early 20s. His thing was, oh, she knows what she's getting into. I was 23, dude. I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. I thought I liked him. At the time, I'm going, cool. Let's go and do something different. This was when I had broken up with this, now my ex-husband guy. 2008. So what was that? I think it was 23. I was not in my right mindset at that time period. I was in a very much destructive mode. I was drinking. I was shagging him for a start. Actually, it was only him, really. So it was like no one else really appeared on the horizon. I never did drugs, strangely enough. Although it was always around me, so I'm like, oh, I don't know why I didn't do that. But for about 6 months to a year, I went full destructive mode. I went into my eating disorder. I went into heavy drinking. I slept with that guy twice. I didn't know what I was doing. This was the same year I miscarried the second time. I was just destroying myself. I was that fucked in the head. And that should have been my wake-up call, that I should have stayed away from my now ex-husband. I shouldn't have fucked the ex, who is now my ex-boyfriend. I should have stayed away from the booze. And I did stay away from the booze. I was teetotaler after I left him, the first time we shagged. I was teetotaler for like 15 years. I'm just like, this is obviously where the problem is. It's like I do these stupid things through alcohol and then it goes tits up. So I should have stopped there. I mean, that's a whole different podcast in itself. We can talk about that later because I'm just appearing around the corner to my work and I'm going to have to turn off the phone in a minute. But it's like, that's a whole different rabbit. We'll go on that in another day. But the thing is, like, people say divorce is bad. It's not bad. It's a means to an end, yes. It is a way to clarify your life. It's a way to make sure that you're not in circumstances which are abusive. My marriage was very abusive. It was controlled. It was me not being me. I wasn't allowed to be me. It was just horrible. And the kids are sad about it. And they're like, oh, I can't believe you got divorced. It's like, for you as a child, not knowing what your parents are going through in the divorce, yes, it does seem traumatic. But at the same time, it's like, imagine staying with this person who is cruel and full of shit and willing to hurt you just to boost their ego. It's not that sad. It's freeing. It really is. They don't understand because all they see is their parents are upset and they're angry and one of them is really hurt and the other's like, I just don't care. And, it's a whole bunch of shit. So they won't know until they get there, I don't think. It's crazy. So what to take away from this? Divorce is not bad. I know there are a lot of organizations that say, once you're with someone, you're with someone. It's like, but if it's, in a sense, a God thing, maybe, like some churches are still anti-divorce. God does not want you to be fucking miserable or abused. This is not part of the trials and tribulations thing. This is an arsehole exploiting a situation. I don't know what the other organized religions are like. I don't know what kinds of societies in a Western society or maybe even an Eastern society which still encourages people to be together who are being openly abused. Okay? So, having said that, it is down to the individual. I do believe in individualism. I don't think that someone else outside you should tell you what you should be doing, particularly when it's inflicting harm on someone. I mean, I'm pretty much a do no harm, take no shit kind of person. It's like, at this point, it's like, I took a lot of shit. I don't have to take shit anymore. I've done that. I've paid that penance. I don't have to take any shit anymore. Not emotionally. There's enough damage up there. Yeah, I got a veritable bank of fucked up trauma responses. We can talk about that later. But at the same time, don't stay with someone just because you think this is the right thing to do. Okay, I stayed with him for so long because I thought this is the right thing to do. I don't believe in divorce. I'm not going to bother, leaving. I'm not going to do anything. And part of that was concern for him as well. I was like, I don't think he'll be able to take it. I don't think, it was weird. I had more concern for him than I did for me. And I was the one getting fucked up. So it's a really weird situation. Look at what you've got that needs to be sorted out. If you've got a house and a kids and all that thing, it's going to be, a really big job, but you've got to ask yourself, are you worth it? Is it the marriage worth staying together? Are you worth self-respecting yourself and getting out of there? Which was the tricky situation for me, because he had found a way to grind me down, to make me stay in a situation where he could readily abuse me. And I didn't register that until he gave me that one big ultimatum, and I thought, fuck it. That was it. That was the moment. I'm like, no, this is the no point. I'm saying no right here. So if anyone tells you divorce is the wrong thing to do, ignore them. They are not living in your life. They are not standing in your shoes. They don't know what you go through on a day-to-day basis just to make shit run. You're going to have to take accountability for yourself. You need to recognize that whoever you're with has to take accountability for themselves. And just weigh up the odds. Is it a good thing or is it a bad thing? Is it worth staying with them? Why should I have to take on the, social approval of others staying in the relationship when I know that this is toxic and it's hurting me? All right. So I'm going to leave you with that thought. There's a whole bunch of other stuff I brought up during that podcast and the other two podcasts. So I'm going to try and reread those or re-listen to those and write down some of the aspects, because they are interesting aspects. I mean, you don't realize how much you've gone through until you go back and go, oh yeah, that's a bit weird. Maybe someone wants to know about that. So that's my next thing. So I've got another one coming tomorrow. I'm trying to do them daily. So I'm going to have like 5 a week, hopefully. Although sitting down over a weekend trying to get them to do anything that's accessible on YouTube, I don't know. So that's another mind-bending thing. All right, so I'll see you guys tomorrow. Hopefully you have a good day. Don't stress. Take it easy. Relax. Even if it means going to a shit job in Kmart. I don't know. I'll see you guys later.